Let's bring in CBS News Homeland Security and Justice reporter Nicole Sganga. So, Nicole, as you know, several media outlets, including CBS News, have petitioned to unseal the affidavit. Tell us more about the push to release the documents and why the Department of Justice says it's not a good idea.
Yeah, Vlad, Anne-Marie, good to be with you both. And CBS News is among over a dozen news organizations that will be represented inside the federal courthouse behind me today. In a filing yesterday, 11 pages long, media organizations making a push to unseal only with minor redactions this affidavit and agreeing with the government that the government might show what's called compelling interest here to keep some details under wrap during the investigation. But they'd like as many details as they can get, even citing Attorney General Merrick Garland in his statement last week that there is a clear and powerful interest here in understanding what occurred during that authorized FBI search of former President Donald Trump's home here in Mar-a-Lago, not too far away from where I'm standing. Of course, media organizations also making the argument here that a lot of the information surrounding this investigation is already publicly known. So, for example, we know the National Archives referred this to the Department of Justice after retrieving 15 boxes back in January, and that some of what was inside of those boxes, those documents, contained classified information and intelligence. The fact that the Department of Justice served President Trump a subpoena sometime during the spring, the fact that the Department of Justice has requested Mar-a-Lago surveillance footage, so citing a number of details that are already publicly known. Of course, we don't know what exactly is in this affidavit, but media organizations and their counsel also saying, look, the president himself has come out and said in recent days that he would like this affidavit to be unsealed. Of course, the government will have their argument as well today.
So I can understand how, unsealing this affidavit, even if it's redacted, could have an impact on ongoing investigations, possibly plural. But are there also national security implications?
Yeah, Anne-Marie, what the government is arguing here is that unsealing this would, quote, irreparably harm the government's ongoing criminal investigations, and they are citing national security considerations, including, information that by law is required to be kept under seal, investigative techniques that were used throughout the process of this probe that they would like to keep under wraps, also citing that as a national security concern. And of course, highly sensitive information regarding witnesses, including some witnesses here that, agreed to cooperate with the federal government. And so, as Catherine Herridge mentioned, DOJ federal prosecutors making the argument that this affidavit is essentially a roadmap to the investigation, including what future steps are to come. Keep in mind that is a fairly compelling argument, along with the fact that many of the witnesses listed in the affidavit, are very sensitive. Certainly the judge within this case who will be overseeing today's hearing will be sympathetic to this argument, because keep in mind that when the search warrant was unsealed, we saw an explosion of backlash, even threats to Judge Reinhardt. CBS News obtained that FBI, Department of Justice FBI bulletin that was warning of specific threats to the judge in this case, that he was doxxed, meaning that personally identifiable information about him, including his address and his family, was revealed. And so there are, in addition to national security concerns, also safety considerations. And inside that courtroom today, it would appear that, the judicial official presiding would be sensitive to some of those arguments made by federal prosecutors.
And those arguments echo what some of the media outlets' lawyers seem to acknowledge, which is that releasing the entire affidavit could pose some harm. For example, the identities of those FBI agents carrying out the search of that Mar-a-Lago home could be seen on television. And, obviously, news organizations that understand the risks will mitigate those risks. But you have, as you know, Nicole, a lot of other news organizations that have no problem putting out the names of those FBI agents, putting out the names of the judges. Even the children of the FBI agents involved in the search have been named by some right-wing news organizations. I know that the president, the former president, is on the record saying he'd love to see this affidavit released too, but that's a bluff. I mean, most people understand that if this affidavit is released and the information comes out as to who spoke to the Department of Justice and what kind of documents they were actually searching, that could be very, very bad. But but they're trying to put it out in the public sphere as if this is transparency. So what other concessions are you expected to hear at the hearing today if the judge is to consider whether or not to release this?
Yeah, Vlad, and you make an important point. We, of course, know that law enforcement has also come under scrutiny, and there have been many threats made to law enforcement, including specific threats. For example, that DHS, FBI bulletin we noted cited threats online of attempts or instructions to make a dirty bomb or an improvised explosive and place it outside of FBI headquarters. And so a lot of safety considerations here. Now, I will say, for the part of media organizations here, they have conceded that it's okay to keep some of the witnesses in this investigation under seal. There was also an August 15th meeting that occurred between some of the media organizations and federal prosecutors here, where the government appealed to, counsel for the media organizations and said, hey, can we also please keep federal prosecutors' names that have not yet been revealed under wraps? We found out in that 11-page filing from Media Organizations Council yesterday that the media has agreed that as long as this investigation is ongoing, the names of federal prosecutors that have not already been publicly shared could be kept under seal. So in court today, they won't argue to have those names or any of the witness names unsealed. One might expect that the media council believes this is a reasonable argument to make, that it might, appeal to the judge. They're saying, we don't want a completely unredacted affidavit, as former President Trump is suggesting. We just want as few redactions as we can get.
Nicole, thank you very much.